Hey everyone, as usual I'm going to just take a moment to quickly share this video on my own page before I get started with the meat of the content. Getting better at learning how to do that more quickly, hopefully. So give me just a moment here to do that. So regardless of whether you're following me, my page or the ENSOMA page, you will have access to this. Okay, this should be share on my timeline, hopefully as me, and let's see if that does it. Okay, in theory it has. Yes, it worked. Okay, now you have my full attention. So welcome to my Facebook Live, and today we're going to be talking about something I personally love. It is called, the theory is called transactional analysis, and I will dig into what that means and make it a little bit more digestible very shortly. I want to say hello from downtown Denver, and of course you may hear all kinds of noises outside, you may not. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Amy, and I was in the corporate wellness and behavior change world for over 20 years, and I love bringing my experience and all of the breadth of knowledge I've learned during that time directly to you. So I started this Facebook Live video series in order to provide small, actionable ways for intelligent people to change their lives and hopefully the lives of those around them. These days I have finally decided what to call myself. I am going to be calling myself from here on out a geek coach, because that's who I am, that's my background. I have always loved geeky things, and that is the mantle that I am going to start sort of my individual coaching program under. And I'm also a public speaker now too, so if you know of any great speaking opportunities, or even not so great speaking opportunities, I would love to hear more about them, and I'm available to give one of my talks free of charge to groups out there who might benefit from learning a little bit more about how I navigated my own career to advocate for myself, learn my strengths, and really make it my own path. And hi Terry, thank you for the encouragement. I love it. Thank you to Terry, and thank you to everybody who joins me for these, who watches them afterwards, and especially to those of you who find enough value to share them with others. It really makes me feel good that the insight and experience I have can somehow, in some little way, make the world a bit better place. In addition to that, if you do share this video, and I'll show you this at the end, my wonderful friend Jenny wrote this book, Hearts. It's photos of all different naturally occurring hearts in nature. I know this looks backwards to you, so hold your video up to a mirror if you really need to see it the right direction. And I'll be giving away 2 personally autographed copies of this book. She will write a little message to you, to the winners, to anyone. You'll be entered in a drawing to anyone who shares one of my Facebook Live videos that I have filmed in the month of October. So you'll have at least 4 different videos, and as long as you share it once, that's all you need to do. You'll be entered in. And this photography is really great. I had Jenny on the program just a couple weeks ago now. And like here's an example. She's written her own little captions next to each one. This is one of my personal favorites, I heart wine. And there's a heart that's kind of a little bit elusive in the pourer in the wine bottle. So that's what I like too, is these photos she's put in here are not necessarily so obvious too. There's kind of a fun little game you can play, finding the heart in each one. So as I mentioned, let me just touch on last week's topic, if you're interested, was also around why we stay in relationships that don't necessarily serve us well. And last week I talked about it from the perspective of inconsistent and intermittent reinforcement in the behavior of the person you're in the relationship with, and you might be the person providing the inconsistent feedback or receiving it, and how that can trigger addictive and drug-like responses in our brains. So if you're interested in that perspective on this topic, please take a look at last week's Facebook Live, and I go into a little bit more detail around some experiments that were done with rats that showed that theory occurs in all different levels of evolutionarily advanced creatures, from rats to humans, and then talked about it a little bit more with some examples in how it might manifest in our own lives. Today's, I'm going to touch on the same topic from a slightly different perspective. And hello, Erin Sell, thank you for joining us too. And today's topic is a little bit complex and a little bit heady. I'm going to try to take it in small bites, but I'd also love your feedback. So if I do touch on a piece of it that doesn't make sense, or you'd like to hear more, you can either speak up while I'm talking today or send me a message, a comment afterwards, and I can use next week's time to go deeper into it. Do you have people in your life that you find you have repeated patterns of some sort of negative interaction? That might be you're consistently being spoken over in conversations. You don't get to finish your thought. You don't get a sentence in. You don't get a word in edgewise. Another example could be they're always asking you for favors, and you find it really hard to say no. So you find yourself doing things that you're just like dreading days in advance, hours in advance. I have to go help. I have to go help so-and-so again. I really don't feel like doing this today. I don't have time to do this. Other people might make you feel small. And gosh, whenever I'm around that person, I'm not my best self. I don't feel great about who I am. I don't feel alive and energized. And there's typically a pattern to it. We all have bad days. We all occasionally make bad decisions, even me, like once. But this is more of a repetitive pattern that you notice, and it doesn't necessarily just have to be people. It could be particular situations bring this out in you. What I'm going to introduce is the concept of ego states. So this theory in practice, in the practice of psychology and therapy, is called transactional analysis. If you want to Google it and learn more, the founder is named Eric Berne, and there's some great books about it out there. My goal is to bring it to you in a little bit more entertaining and short bite way, but that's the foundation of the principle that I'm going to be talking about. So these ego states are typically called parent, adult, and child. And I know parent and adult sound a little bit similar, but they're really not. The parent ego state has two sides to it. It has a nurturing, loving side, but it can also have kind of a controlling, domineering side to it. The child ego state, and none of these is necessarily inherently good or bad. I want to take a step back and mention that these are not judgments. These are not, if I refer to something triggering your parent or your child state, that doesn't mean that that's necessarily a negative thing. It's just a very important awareness and paradigm to view your behavioral patterns through. So your parent state, nurturing, controlling. The child state can be fun and playful, but it can also be helpless and needy. So the adult state is the unique out of the three, in that it is not subdivided. The idea with having access to your adult state is that you can take all of the information at your disposal, all of your experience, and integrate it into the way you react to a situation. Okay, so there's the sort of intellectual introduction. Let me give an example of how somebody in each of these ego states might react to a situation. I hear skateboarders going by my window all the time outside. And sometimes I look out and see what they're doing. There's kind of a ramp out there, and I often see them doing their tricks and stuff. And sometimes they're not wearing helmets, like all the time. They're not wearing helmets. They're not wearing wrist guards. They're not, these are just 20-something, teenage 20-somethings people out there skateboarding, having fun. Well, if I happen to be in my parent ego state, I might look at them and go, oh, that's very dangerous. You should be wearing a helmet. I'm concerned for you. And that's a little bit more nurturing. If I'm feeling more controlling, I might even run out there with a helmet and say, here, put this on. You're taking chances you don't need to. You're risking your future. Sort of scolding. And these are both manifestations of the parent state. Concerned, oh no, they're going to get hurt. Controlling, here, I'm telling you to put a helmet on. If I'm looking out from my child state and I see them, I might go, oh, that looks like fun. I want to go out there. I used to be a skateboarder. I want to go jump on with them. Hey, that guy looks like he's, kind of cool, and I want to be with the cool kids. I'm going to run out and join them with no regard to whether they would want me to join them, a middle-aged woman, or not. So that's very childlike, very playful, and there's a great fun spirit to it in my mind, without regard to whether they would want me to be part of this or not. The other side of the childlike state might be a little bit needy, like, hey guys, can I come join you? I'm a little afraid, but is that okay? And it's sort of from this accept me please, whiny type of attitude. So that's the parent and child. The adult state would look out the window. I would look out the window in my adult state and say, oh, well, they've chosen not to wear helmets or wrist guards, but I give them full credit for being autonomous decision makers. They're in their 20s. We were all there once. It's important to learn risk-taking as you're growing up. This might make me feel a little uncomfortable, perhaps because of some experience in my past or something I saw on TV, but I can access why I'm feeling a little bit concerned or uncomfortable about it and decide I don't need to be invasive. I can give them credit for deciding to have taken a risk. I can give them credit for choosing, knowing their abilities, knowing that, hey, they're just skateboarding on this little ramp on the sidewalk. They feel completely comfortable doing it in the situation, in the protective gear or not that they're in. So I can then walk away and dismiss that and then not feel hung up on it, because I've recognized that maybe I have some parent and child emotional reaction to what I'm seeing, but I don't have to act on it, and I don't have to project my own fears and experiences onto some people that I don't even know who are just having a good time out my window. So that's one example of how a parent, child, and then adult state might manifest in the same situation. Notice the adult isn't subdivided there. I can access the information from all the different states. There may be certain triggers, such as spiders, that put people into a state of, you might be going for a hike, or snakes. I know recently there's been some rattlesnake activity in Colorado, and maybe you're out for a hike and in your adult state and you're appreciating nature and this is great and I'm hiking along, and all of a sudden you see a movement out of the corner of your eye and you go, oh my God, what is that? I can't walk down the path any further. Somebody else go get it for me. Get that out of the way. I need help. And you become sort of this helpless female, damsel in distress. Somebody please. That situation just triggered your child state. And that's totally fine. These are things I'm, like I said, trying to help you be aware of, where other people's reactions to you might kind of be to roll their eyes, like, okay, all right, drama queen, we'll take care of this, the spider or the snake or whatever. It might put someone, and this is the point of what I'm going into about if you react to something, it might then trigger someone else's parent state. So I see my friend Robin just joined us a little bit. Hi, Robin. So Robin's hiking with me, and I go into my child state. Oh my gosh, I'm freaking out. There's a snake. And Robin might then trigger her parent state and go, oh, it's okay, I'll take care of it. Don't you worry, I'll go up there with a stick and get it out of the way. And suddenly we're in this parent-child dynamic where I kind of go, okay, thanks, Robin, I'll just stay back here. Rather than if we both were able to identify that and say, oh my gosh, that snake is totally freaking me out, stay in our adult states where I might say, okay, I really don't know how to deal with a rattlesnake. I don't have the information. I'm not sure if I should run away. I'm really scared right now. I'm shaking in my boots. Robin says, well, I know all about snakes. I can tell you what to do and just stand aside, and I'll go up there and kind of scare it off, stay at a safe distance, get it out of the way. So you can still have the fear. That's part of the important thing to realize about these ego states is they're not defining how you feel about a situation. It's how they manifest, accessing that fear and saying, I recognize this is a threat and I'm terrified, is a very different experience than just going, oh my God, somebody help me, and kind of being a helpless victim in the child state. One last thing today, and we're really just touching the surface of this stuff, is some of these ego states are complementary. They're stable interactions. And this is going back to what I said at the beginning, is do you notice that you have patterns with people where you're kind of constantly noticing they talk over you, or you're constantly saying yes to favors they ask. If you're in your child state and they're in their parent state, this is a complementary interaction. So I could indefinitely stay in a child state if Robin stayed in her parent state. Oh my gosh, thank you. Will you please walk ahead of me the rest of the hike? Oh sure, let me, I'll take care of you. Just follow me. Nothing bad will happen to you. Well, we all know nobody can guarantee nothing bad will happen to you. But if I'm in my child state and she's in her parent state, then I want to believe her. Okay, thanks for taking care of me. This can go on indefinitely because we're both in this cross transaction. And it is sustainable. Now, if she were in her parent state and I was in my parent state, that's an unstable transactional analysis ego state. It's called a crossed interaction. So that might look like her saying, oh, I'll take care of you, and me saying, well, I'm an adult. I may not know about rattlesnakes, but I can take care of myself. I've been hiking before. And her saying, well, geez, I was just trying to help out. You seemed really afraid. Well, the snake is gone now, so I don't really need you to take care of me. So you can see how that creates some tension, and we're both sort of in these parent states of her thinking, oh, great, I'm going to make sure Amy's feeling okay about this, and me having shifted and going, well, now the threat's gone. I don't know why you think I'm this little needy thing that needs taken care of. So that very quickly devolves into either a constant source of tension and a fight, or one of us has to shift states and either go into the child state, or we both figure it out and get into our adult state. So these are just a brief high-level introduction to the idea that different people and different situations can bring out what's called these ego states in us. And the reason I really like having this vocabulary in life is it's very non-judgmental. You can talk about yourself as having been in a childlike mindset, a child state, a parent state, without saying, that's who I am. I can say, oh my God, when that snake came up, I totally found my child state and freaked out, and thank you for acknowledging that and taking care of me in your parent state for that moment. But then you can also say, but that's not who I am. That's who I happen to turn into in that particular moment for a variety of reasons. Now if Robin hadn't been there, maybe I wouldn't have turned into my child state because there was nobody there to reciprocate in the parent state. So it's a really nice framework as you're trying to figure out what's going on in your life, why did I act that way, because you don't have to say, I am childish, or I am foolish, or I am any of those labels. You can say, this person, this situation, the mindset I was in at the time brought out my childlike, needy side. It brought out my playful side and brought out my nurturing side as an adult. And there are times when I, ahead of time, say, you know what? It's my birthday. I want to be the child. I want you all to take care of me tonight, and I don't want to have responsibilities. I don't want to have to be the adult. And plan on ahead of time to just have the right circumstances and the right people around me to embrace that state. So again, not good or bad in any of these states. I'm just trying to provide you with a different framework to think a little bit about why you might have certain behaviors in certain situations. And Robin, I will give you a call so we can go hiking together and you can protect me from all the rattlesnakes out there. Thank you again for joining me. I will most likely be going more into some of this transactional analysis framework going forward because there's so much great stuff to it. Once you understand the baseline of the ego states, then you can get into some really juicy stuff about why they get triggered, when they get triggered, how you can recognize and call someone out on triggering it and say, I see what's going on here, how you can disengage. If you find someone's pushing your buttons and constantly putting you into this state that you don't want to be in, there are some very simple techniques that you can just say, hey, wait a minute, I see what's going on here, and here's how I'm going to disengage from it. So I'll talk a bit about that next week and going forward most likely, because this is really neat, juicy, versatile tools that I would love to make sure that you all have access to. A couple last things real quick on the adult state before I sign off. Keep in mind the adult state, Robin's afraid of snakes. Okay, we'll handle it like two adults, Robin, then. We're good. Adult state gives people the benefit of being responsible for their own actions and autonomy in their own decision making, provides an objective appraisal of the situation, and doesn't feel responsible necessarily for solving it, can take a step back and appreciate the bigger picture of what's going on, and sees themselves as an equal. If I want to say no to something and that person wants to get all upset that I said no, well, you know what? That's their responsibility. That's their reaction. I am not responsible for teaching them to accept my no in a more mature way. So in the adult state, you can kind of divorce yourself and recognize, hey, that is their responsibility to control their own emotions and reactions to disappointing news in their world. So I leave you and ask you, think about your own states, your own situations, or people who bring out different states in you. And again, I would love if you find these videos helpful or fun or or entertaining, if you would share them with people you think that might appreciate them. And I'm getting super excited to choose the winners at the end of October to receive the copies of Jenny's book. And as I said, I am now calling myself a geek coach, and I look forward to helping technical executives, analytical-minded folks, and various types of engineers craft their own careers based around their strengths, and more on that in the near future. I've started booking public speaking engagements, so if you know of any groups that might appreciate hearing more about how engineering-type folks can not just be cogs in the wheel, can really develop their own set of strengths and their own career paths around those strengths, I would love to get out there and talk to those groups. No charge, it's just something I'm passionate about and love helping people in that particular industry, or anyone who thinks they could benefit from it. Thanks so much for joining me, and please try to make someone else's day a little bit better, and if not someone else's, at least your own. Bye from Denver, and see you next week.